In this series of special 25AV interviews, we'll be digging deeper into each artistic pair's collaboration and their resulting work. Today we're speaking with Athens-based DJ and producer Stathis Kalatzis, aka Mr. Static, and Berlin-based visual artist and 3D designer Carla Streckwall. Before the 25AV project began, you'd already been collaborating with one another. How did you first connect, and what was it that you admired about one another's work that made you want to start collaborating with one another in the first place?
I mean, before collaborating, we were friends, and we knew each other's work, and we found grounds in talking about the same topics over and over again, not just the content-wise, but also different inspiration like movies, images, visual landscapes, and also music. And we found common grounds and realized that putting our heads together and creating something that would be a piece of the both of us would be a really great experience. And it is actually. So we've been working for more than a year on a project now. And it's been very inspiring to not just be one person with the input, but have this ping pong between the both of us.
Yeah, to add to that, I really appreciate the fact that Carla is a big advocate of experimenting and playing it rough and loose with stuff until we come up with ideas, which is also the way I like to produce most of the time. Even though like the musical approach tends to be specific and might be club oriented or not, I always start like with really rough sketches and wing it till I get to where I want. And pretty much we found common ground there of like really letting go and then coming together with like a common audiovisual language.
Amazing. So can you tell me a bit about how 25AV has allowed you to expand on what you were already working on together? And has it enabled you to think outside the box more than you would previously without the kind of constraints of the project?
Well, I think mostly 25AV gave us an opportunity and a framework to work within, and also time-wise, budget-wise, but in general also from the platform that gave us some sort of a structure that we can be really creative within. So sometimes you need a lot of structure, you need a lot of framework in order to be really free with what you're doing.
Yeah. On top of that, I think that it's also been like a morale boost, let's say, because as Carla mentioned earlier, we've been working on this project for almost a year now, and it started from a very vague idea till something that became quite concise. But then when you actually start pitching that ideas and you get this sort of feedback and then subsequently support, then that's kind of like a proof of concept, let's say, that we're onto something. And that's of course very inspiring and helps you like push forward even more, because you know you're like there's something that's definitely grabbing people's attention.
So your AV piece, it's intended to be completely immersive. What do you hope that the audience will take away from it?
Well, our piece is talking about dreamscapes, and how we sleep. Basically, it's a very intimate sort of piece, both music and visual-wise. And we believe that the audience can really dive into experience that for themselves, both in public and in private, as it is a very intimate topic. You might find yourself being frightened, you might find yourself meditating on some pieces, maybe being reminded of your own dreams in some sort, but it's also an experience you can share with someone who's right next to you. So I think that is maybe the key feature of the whole piece.
Yeah, with the topic of the piece circulating around sleep and also sleep disorders, and primarily with how those have emerged since the pandemic, and how they were coupled with this sense of uncertainty, particularly among the creative world, but not only that. I think it's a way of also decoding all of these difficulties and how they have been internalized by people in a ways that we're still kind of recognizing now when we have sort of reclaimed our lives back. and whatever that reclaiming meant for everyone. So I guess as Carla mentioned, this is like a joint, like a communal experience for people who have probably found things to identify and empathize with as part of the exhibition. And in the end, it's also like a sort of a nudge that you're not alone out there.
Okay, lastly, you have hopes to be able to turn this piece into an organic and spontaneous experience that you can take to different places and different spaces. How do you envisage the piece as a whole evolving in the future?
Well, we don't see the project as a finished project, maybe not even ever, because it's something that is nourishing from stories, experiences, both from ourselves, but also friends and other people. And we can really imagine that since this could be a place or even a platform for sharing your own dreams, for sharing your own experiences with sleep. From beginning to the end, it's an experiment. And so while we're developing all these visuals and music at the same time as finding the stories, we will continue just doing that. And I'm super excited to also see what's going to do, what the piece is going to do with the audience, how people are going to react, and maybe the stories they're going to tell us about their sleep stories and their dreams.
It would be great to create this potentially interactive dimension to all of this. So of course, the idea is of having this immersive exhibition, and then ideally we can also discuss about whether that could be like a tour, as you mentioned, like a tourable live performance, which is also very exciting because it's we hadn't even considered that before we put our heads together on how this piece would look like. But at the same time, finding ways where somehow spectators and visitors can make it their own is even more exciting, as Carla mentioned. It's a project that can have a life of its own, whether it is via documenting other people's dreams and have like a platform of sorts that people can exchange whatever happens in the subconscious, or perhaps the installation itself can get this extra perspective or dimension where people actually fine-tune or modulate the way that dreams and the music appears, and they become part of the live performance. So there's definitely a lot to explore, and it's a non-stop process. And yeah, we're very excited to see where we can go with this.
Sounds very exciting. I'm excited to see how it's going to evolve. I'm sure that everybody who watches it will be. To find out more about Stathis and Carla's collaboration and watch their AV work in full, head to 25av.eu.